Hey, Central Ward. This is Amina Bey, your councilwoman, and we are here for Mic Check Newark. We're breaking down all things Central Ward, all things Newark, whether we're talking about how government works, how we bring resources and information to you, and how you can be engaged. We're here for you, so join us.
Councilwoman Bey, I am so excited to be here with you on the very first episode of Mic Check Newark, The Breakdown. We are good friends, but today we are going to have an amazing conversation to let the people know exactly how Newark works. We hear the questions all the time. You get the questions all the time. We talk about it all the time. So I'm excited to be here with you today, where we're going to break down government. We'll talk about your role as a council person, and we'll talk about how people can actually get engaged in the process. You ready to break it down?
I'm ready to break it down.
All right, let's get started. So, Councilwoman Bey, let's just start generally with, what do you think the people are the most confused about when they come up to you on the street and have questions? What's the top question that they have for you?
There's so many things, but I think one of the things is that people are really confused about my role as a council person, what I'm responsible for, what I have the power to do, versus what the mayor's role and responsibility is. There's just so many different things. Even people that you believe are engaged civically are still a little bit confused. And so that's why I'm really glad that we're having this conversation today, so we can just kind of lay it all on the line and explain people in a Mic Check Newark Schoolhouse Rock type of way.
I love it.
For those that remember Schoolhouse Rock.
I love it. So before we get to the roles, let's start big. Let's start with government generally. And now we know we have different levels of government: federal government, state government, and then local government. Just give us an overview of what the government does and how it works.
So one of the things I think that we really haven't done a good job of doing is clarifying what government is, and it's just a formal system, that takes people, an institution, a body of people that provide laws and govern everything from taxes to purchases to public safety, social services, and make sure that the people are covered. That's what government is, and that's what government is supposed to do. When we talk about local government, especially the city of Newark, we are a democracy. You hear so many different words of, the dictatorships and, and different things. But we are a democracy, one person, one man, one woman, one vote. And that's where the people are really in charge. So because the people elect and vote for the others who represent them, like myself. And so you decide who represents you, and you decide how your city, your state, your country is run by your vote.
It's amazing that we're talking about democracy given where we are in these days and times, and that as Newark residents, we can still hold on to what a true democracy is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. In addition to being a democratic city, we also hear a lot about us being nonpartisan. Mm-hmm. And having nonpartisan elections or being a nonpartisan city. Can you clarify what that actually means for Newark?
Yes, and actually, growing up, you heard that term all the time, nonpartisan election. Nonpartisan election, really didn't know what it means. Basically, like we have coming up a nonpartisan municipal election, there's only one political party that is involved in that election. And that's running. It's the Democratic Party. So there's no contention between political parties, between Democrat and Republican, that's running for council, mayor. Yeah.
So so just to be clear, it doesn't matter what party you are. You can run for any seat in Newark. So we don't have like a primary general election. We just have one election to vote in Newark. The other thing that we hear about is that the Faulkner Act and how Newark is composed when it comes to government. Can you share a little bit about that as well?
Yes. So when we talk about the Faulkner Act, we're talking about the way that our municipal government is set up, and it's a mayor-council setup. And some people describe it as a top-down, but I really describe it as a bottom-up. And I don't really like to use the term bottom because it makes it seem derogatory. But when we talk about bottom-up, we're talking about the residents, then the elected officials, going all the way up to the mayor, because it's the residents that really drive everything. The residents say what they need. All of the changes that have been made in our city and in our government in general, since the beginning of time, started with boots on the ground, the residents, the citizens saying, you know what, we like this and we want more of this, or this doesn't work for us and we're going to advocate for the change. And so we have the mayor who is in charge of the city, basically. He manages the city services, all of the departments that run the city that are part of the administration. He's the boss. He tells everybody what to do. You have the council who are elected, who the council and the mayor should be working together, but also the council provides the checks and balances for the mayor and for the administration. And so because we represent the citizens tells us, hey, we know that the mayor has this department, but this is not working well in my community. This is not happening the way it should be on my block, and we need you to do something about it. And so whether we advocate for them with the administration and go to the different departments and find out who's responsible for what, or if we see it's something that really needs fixing, not just adjusting, then maybe we need to look into some ordinances. And then that's what we get into, because our real job as council members are to legislate. We are the legislative body for the city of Newark.
So let me go back a bit. When I think about this, for someone that still might not understand how city government works, if we compare it to the federal government, mayor, i.e. president, council, i.e. Senate, congressional, got it. So your body as a council is to legislate and make laws. The mayor's role is to be an executive and make sure that things are actually getting done. So one of the things that, now that we cleared that up, and thank you for that clarity, is people still wonder, and I know they come to the council for everything. If the snow isn't plowed, if the garbage isn't picked up, and despite you being clear that that's not, you don't run those offices, what is your role to make sure that what people are coming to you about actually gets done? What does the council do?
So I'm the liaison between the community and administration. I am the representative. I represent the needs, the wants, the issues, the concerns of the residents. I am the chief advocate. So I'm the central ward council person. So even though we all cover, of course, the city we're one city, but I am mostly responsible for the central ward. And so people sometimes, and it happens because the person that's closest to you, they're the ones that's going to get all the information. So I've had people in a snowstorm, call me and say that they wanted me to come and shovel out their walk. And I'm like, that's not necessarily what I do. But I know some brothers down the street, if you pay them $20, they'll come and get it for you. But I'm also the one that can contact the director of the Department of Public Works and say, hey, block so-and-so, this block wasn't clear. We need to get on it and bring those things to their attention. There was a missed pickup for trash, on this street, and we need to get on so those type of things, whether it's parking, we get issues regarding housing, and we go and speak to business owners and building owners to make sure that the residents get what they need, because that's what their tax dollars pay for, representation.
So you really are an advocate.
Absolutely.
An advocate for every resident that lives within a central ward. And I know that the structure of the city is that you have 5 wards and then 4 council at-large members. Yeah. Can you share a little bit about the distinction between a ward council person and an at-large council person, and how their responsibilities fall on you?
Absolutely. And the thing is that one thing I want people to really understand is that over the years, as our city has evolved and changed, the way we govern, the way our people have lived, the way our people have come into power, things have changed. And so we have 5 ward council members. We have the Central Ward, East Ward, North Ward, South Ward, West Ward. I got them. Yes. Yep. And then we have 4 at-large council members who cover the entire city. Initially, the at-larges were solely responsible for policy. They were the policy makers, and the ward council people would represent the constituents in the different wards, bring things to attention, and they would, we would work together like that. But the way the city has evolved and it has changed over the decades, that's kind of shifted. And so the at-larges, they kind of, they're all over the place, really. They cover the city. They support the advocacy of the ward council people. And even though they do, do a lot of driving towards ordinances and policy making, but they've really have expanded their roles a lot and really help and support the ward council members cover the issues that come up, because it's a lot.
I can only imagine the number of issues that you have to support in your particular ward, in a Century Ward. And we talk about how Century Ward, everybody thinks their ward is the best ward, right? The West Ward is the best ward. You got the Mighty South, you got C Ward, you have all these wards, right? But I mean, if we're honest, and I'm a West Warder.
Yes.
I'm a West Warder. West Ward is the best ward. But I work downtown. I come downtown. I, get entertained downtown. Talk a little bit about the Central Ward and like the development that's happening here, and how your role as a council person in protecting what's happening in the Central Ward, but also advocating for things to move forward in your ward, in your capacity, in your role.
Well, you're right. We have a very lighthearted competition with the ward council people. Everyone, I'm screaming, "See, boy, see, boy!" Everyone is West,
like what?
Yeah. And I was born and raised in the South Ward, so I'm always going to be a South Ward chick. But the Central Ward is the heartbeat of the city. Everything that happens in the city, good, bad, or indifferent, happens in the Central Ward first. And then if we talking historically, when the Great Migration happened, when so many Black people were migrating from the South to the North, and they came to Newark, the Central Ward is where most of them settled, because during that time, the North Ward was mostly Italians, the South Ward was mostly a Jewish community. And so that's where everybody kind of settled until after people started spreading out in the late 50s, early 60s, and then after the rebellion, was, so many Caucasians moved out of the city. So the Central Ward became the heartbeat, because that's where the jobs were. That's, we used to be an industrial city. So all of the different warehouses, and so many of them were located in the Central Ward. And so now when we talk about businesses and development, we have the railways, we have all of the roadways, come through the Central Ward. We have the ports, we have the airport, we have everything that you need for business connected in the Central Ward. So yes, that's where we attract businesses. And so with the development also of so many different housing, developments and apartments, we have an influx of people. And so the Central Ward has become one of the most diverse, one of the most densely populated areas, in the city of Newark. So it's important. We're not trying to gatekeep, but we want to make sure that we protect. And it's a difference. And sometimes people don't know and understand the difference.
Yep, I get it. With everything that you just said, and thank you for sharing that historical lens about the Century Ward, but it just makes me think about how important your role is as the advocate, as the steward, as the protector of the Central Ward. And we talked a little bit about the work you do with constituent concerns and what happens if these challenges come about by residents. But let's take a step back and talk about your broader role in terms of like the resources that you provide to residents to make sure they know about the development and they know about the new businesses that are coming up. How do you do that as a council person?
It's a lot, because there are a lot of different balls in the air. You have an area that has billion-dollar businesses, but also has the highest population of unhoused and homeless people. We have residents that live in beautiful brownstones and voters who make over $100,000 a year. And we also have senior citizens who are barely making it, and we have to provide food for. So that's a lot to cover. That's a lot of ground to cover. But really working with when we talk about the growth and development of the city, most times people are thinking about the businesses that are coming in and the developers. And we have to make sure that they know and understand that there's nothing that should be happening in this city that doesn't benefit the residents. So whatever it is, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's making sure that our Newark residents are on these construction sites, making sure that Newark vendors are receiving the opportunity to be a part of that construction and that development, we have to make sure that everyone knows and understands that it's Newark first, period, dot, end of story. And so that's a struggle, a lot of times, because again, there's so much going on. You hear everybody talking about tax abatements and all of the different things. And yes, we want to provide financial incentives because we want people to come to Newark. We want the city to grow. But again, the growth and development starts with the residents and with the people first. And so as long as everyone understands that, we can all play well together in the sandbox.
I love that. And it's a growing sandbox.
Yes.
And I love the way that you're thinking about this. Like, we don't want to gatekeep, but we want to protect. You want to make sure that what's being built here is being built here for Newark residents first.
That's right.
And I appreciate that. I'm sure all Newark residents do. So far, we heard about two parts of your role: constituent services, the day-to-day, making sure things get done, people bringing you concerns when it doesn't happen. We also heard about providing resources, making sure that residents are in the know and what they're doing. The other piece that you touched on a little bit is that the central role of a council person is to be a legislator.
Yes.
Right? Like, it is to write ordinances, write legislation, make sure the city is moving forward. Talk a little bit more about your role as a legislator and give us an example of an ordinance that has happened in Newark so people really understand what that entails and how them as people can make sure the city is moving forward with their own advocacy.
Absolutely. So the ordinances, which are the laws that govern the city, sometimes it can be something small for, or what people would consider small for a quality of life issue, and sometimes it's something bigger and broader that has far-reaching impact. So one of the things that are big and broader is the first source agreement. And we were just talking about development and businesses coming in. And so there's an ordinance on the books that had to be put in place because once upon a time, Black and brown people were not given the opportunity to really have sustainable employment in this city a long time ago. There were, a lot of issues. And again, we know that was something systemic with this nation when we talk about, oppression and Jim Crow and racism. But to provide opportunities for Newark vendors and Newark businesses to get in on the construction, to get in on the development, no matter where they stood in the cities, for Newark residents to get the first opportunity to get jobs. And so we had to put a law on the books to regulate that and to legislate that, and it's been on the books for a while. And then again, part of our job as council members is not only to put laws in place and ordinances in place, but also to make sure that they are followed, to make sure that they are enforced. And so we have that due diligence to, have to make sure that we do that follow-up. And also something as simple, and one thing that I just put forth recently, because, we've had these back-to-back snowstorms. This winter has been brutal. It has been brutal. And I think Mother Nature's bipolar. I need her to get some help. But it's been a lot. And so, but we've had businesses with absentee landlords, in commercial property that were left unkept. And so we have residents that are walking in the street trying to catch a bus or Uber because they can't walk down the street because this business owner, this lot and property owner has not taken care of it. So we put something on the books. Look, you have 48 hours.
That's right.
To get this together, because our people shouldn't suffer because you decided to abdicate your responsibilities.
That's right.
So if you're going to own property in the city, you have to take care of it. And if not, there will be hefty fines levied against you.
That's right.
And you should be prohibited from being able to own additional property. You shouldn't be able to just buy a property and just leave it unkept.
Not take care of it.
So you're not only adding to urban blight, but then you're putting our residents at risk. We can't have that.
I'll tell you, as a trained attorney, like, having something in black and white on the books makes all the difference. It's one thing to have a conversation about something and try to appeal to someone's more conscious about doing the right thing. There's another thing to say, this is a law that we are planning to enforce, and there are consequences if you don't. So I appreciate that arm of the council seat that is really legislative. And it's not just, we want to see things move in Newark. We want to have Black and brown businesses, but it's on paper to make sure that we are sourcing those organizations, those companies first to make things happen, or we're doing laws to make sure that our residents are safe.
Mm-hmm.
But as a resident, as a Newark resident, if I'm seeing something wrong with the city and I think this needs to be a law on the books and things like that, what's the process? What do I do if I have something that I'm really concerned about? How do I get that moving? How do I approach the council with that? If there's something, a law that I think should be enforced or a new law that I think should be drafted.
And that's one of the things that people don't really know, that we depend on the residents to speak up, to knock on our door, to call our offices, to send us an email. Because again, we can't see everything all at once. We can't be everywhere all at once. And so we need the residents of the city to be our eyes and ears of the city. Yes, we move around and we knock on doors and we talk to residents and we engage people as much as possible. But again, this is a city of over 300,000 people. It's kind of hard for us to get everybody at once. And so what we've done in my office is that we put together, and I have an amazing team. When I tell you I am blessed,
do.
I have an amazing team. Shout out to Team ABC. But we put together information that we've sent out to residents. We do a Central Ward download, which is a virtual newsletter that we email. We have a brochure that we go and knock on the doors of residents and bring it to them. And it has information on how to contact us, how to contact different departments. But we want people to let us know, hey, we've been seeing this for years. We've been living in this apartment building for a long time, and this has been happening, that has been happening. And they give us ideas of ordinances and things, or things that may be on the books already that needs to be strengthened. Because sometimes you don't have to create something new. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. If there's something there, okay, so we need to add a little bit more teeth to it. We need to make it stronger. And then now we need to push it back up to the forefront so we can do that proper follow-up and make sure that it's being enforced, because it's no good on paper if nobody sees it, if nobody works on it, if nobody deals with it and enacts, the law.
One of the things that we see is the entertainment that happens at a council meeting.
Yes.
And it can be very entertaining. And I know people are there talking about their issues, talking about their challenges that mean a lot for them. But if you don't know how a council meeting operates, if you don't understand what some of the challenges are, it can be a little bit, what's happening here? What's going on? Walk us through what happens at a council meeting.
So one of the things is that I have to say, I understand the frustration of the residents. I was a child born in struggle. I come from parents, one of the first mother-daughter activities that I engaged in with my mom was a protest march, So I understand what advocacy and resistance looks like. And we need to encourage that, because, again, that's how we have changed not only our city, our state, our country, but the world. With that being said, the council meetings have provided an opportunity for residents to come and express their opinion on things that are on the items that are on the agenda, whether it's budgetary items, different resolutions, ordinances, issues of concern for them specifically, for the city in general, or actions that they see that the administration is taking or not taking that they feel that, there needs to be some discussion about. And so what happens is that sometimes advocacy turns into political theater. And when I say political theater, meaning that we can advocate for or against something without personally attacking people and getting off somebody. So if I'm someone who I'm not, politically astute, and I'm watching this, I'm concerned. I'm like, well, what's going on with my city? Like, what is happening? Why is everybody yelling? Why are you yelling and cursing? Why are people being escorted out by the police? And so we need people to come and speak their piece and speak their mind, and address the issues that come before them. We have a responsibility as their representatives to make sure that we are being transparent, because one of the things that residents complain about is the lack of communication. And so people become upset and even angry when they feel that they're not being told the truth, when they feel that things are happening that are not in their best interest, and the people who they elected to take care of those things are not doing their job. So we have a responsibility to make sure that the residents know and understand what our job is and that we are doing it. Now, are we perfect? No. But if we communicate effectively, I think that we would be able to kind of bridge the gap that sometimes gets in between the council members and the residents that come to the council meetings.
I'll say that I'm sure, and I've had conversations with people that have challenges, but it could be intimidating to come to a council meeting with people, that have come for a long time and are really comfortable in those spaces, to stand in front of 9 elected officials and talk about the challenges that you're having. What are some other avenues people can take outside of a council meeting to have their voices heard?
Well, what we've set up in our office, and everyone has an opportunity to make an appointment, to do a sit-down meeting with their council member, and again, to, make a phone call, come to the office, send an email. But we've set up different meetings, and we have the days of the council meetings. We have a segment we call Before the Gavel. And so we allow residents, whether they're a business owner or a young person coming to pitch an idea, a senior citizen that has a quality of life issue, to come, make an appointment. We sit down, we hear your issue, and we do follow up. And so that allows them the opportunity to be seen and heard, and then we follow up with them on their issue. So you don't have to stand before the council that's televised and worried about this is being broadcast and what do I look like and what am I saying? Yes, exactly. You turn into a meme. Nobody worries about, But and it can be intimidating, So we provide them the opportunity to have that time, with us, and to talk about some things. And sometimes that's all people want. They just want to know that you hear them, that you see them, that you understand, because at the end of the day, we're all residents.
That's right.
We're all residents. I live in a Central Ward just like you, and the issues that affect you affect me as well. And so I have a responsibility to, at the very least, sit still for a few minutes and hear you out.
Yep. I appreciate you sharing the Before the Gavel. I don't think anyone knows that. I'm not sure how many people actually know about that. So it's great that you all really have that time for people that might not feel comfortable in that space, but still want to have their challenges and their issues heard. The other piece that we talked about a little bit is about the ordinances. How does it become an ordinance? Like, what is the process that people have to walk through from an idea to actually become a law in the city?
See, we schoolhouse rock.
Schoolhouse rock.
How a bill becomes a law. I'm just a bill.
Yes, I'm just a bill.
So it's the thing is that and I'm not gonna lie, it can be a long, tedious process.
Okay.
It really can. And so it starts with an idea, and again, we go back to it starts with the residents. It starts with what it is that they need, what it is that they're not getting, what it is that we need to improve upon that helps to improve their quality of life. So whether it's jobs, whether it's snow removal, whether it's trash, whether it's how developers come into the city, what's the requirement, whatever that is, it's in that information, whether it comes from the mind of the council person, the council team, or the residents, is something that's introduced, and presented to, we have the city clerk and we have the business administrator. We have all of these people that work together to help create these ordinances. But the first thing that we do in my office, again, is we go and check the books and see what's there before we try to create something that's new, because there's a lot of ordinances that are already on the books that nobody's ever heard of, okay? And that's why nobody follows them, because nobody pays attention to them. But to really draft something, you need the legal team to really just, because again, when we're talking about laws, we're talking about what's legal, and to see, make sure that whatever it is that we're trying to do or we're trying to improve on or expand upon, first of all, is within the legal realm of the city and the administration, and so to do that research, and to draft it, and we go through the city clerk's office, and there's a whole system, and there's a system called Legistar that
Okay.
that's the city uses, and there's so many different layers, and before things go through the clerk's office, the business administrator, the corporation council, and the legislative body, and then there's a draft, and it goes before the council for first reading to see if you want to adopt it and go for a vote. Then the second reading. There are a lot of different layers, and so it takes time because something may need to be amended. Well, something needs to be changed. Well, council member has questions, or maybe we need to make some changes to this. And so before it even gets to a vote, there are so many different ways that ordinances have to go in order for it to be presented, to be voted on, and become a law. So one of the first things that we really talk about is just doing the research, because what you don't want to do is present something that's not sustainable and something that's not enforceable.
Yep.
So really for me, it's about the research and making sure that it's something that is easily moved through the system, not something that's going to get stuck in the muck and mire and minutia, because bureaucracy is a lot and it's real. As much as we try to say, oh, no, government works, bureaucracy is real. It exists everywhere.
It is.
And so part of our job and part of the team's job is really to kind of handhold this piece of legislation and make sure that it goes through all of the proper channels and gets to where it needs to be.
So thank you for that breakdown. It really explains why people could be frustrated, but just don't have an idea of how long the process really is. Yeah. So when we hear comments like, I brought this to you 3 months ago, it hasn't moved yet, or I've been talking about this for 8 months, it really is because behind the scenes, there's this long, extended process that things are going through to make sure that once we do pass and has it on the books, it is enforceable. The first reading, the second reading, the public comment, the research, the business office, the city clerk, it really is an extensive process. And I think people just having an understanding of why things can take so long, although can be frustrating, is because we want to make sure that the best thing is actually in black and white and ultimately enforceable. So I appreciate you sharing that breakdown.
And thank you for that, because one of the things that I realized once I was sworn in and I sat in the seat as a council person, one of my main jobs is really to manage the expectations of the citizens, because once you're, trying to provide information and educating people on how this really works, also managing expectations. So it's not like calling the phone company and getting a credit on your bill and you see it on the next bill. It doesn't work that quite that fast. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't, because I understand, because what's important to you is urgent.
Yep.
Okay. But people need to understand that unfortunately, there is a process. And when we talk about government, whether it's municipal government, federal government, state government, county government, there's a process to everything. Even if you get a ticket or fighting a ticket, there's a process for that. And so I know people don't like to hear that when it's something that you are, personally invested in. But we just ask people to be patient and work with us. And hopefully we can help revamp the system so it doesn't take so long, so it's not so cumbersome, so it's not so tedious. Because again, we can work on improving the system in and of itself so it works better for the people who it's intended for.
I love it, and I appreciate the educational background you have given us on civic engagement, what a mayor does, what a council person does, legislate, constituent services, resource allocation, and making sure people have knowledge about that. You taught us how to get involved in the process, whether that's coming to a council meeting or coming to your desk and talking to you or your team members, or sending an email or attending before the gavel.
Yes.
As part of the way if you're intimidated about council meeting, you also been able to inform us about how a idea becomes an ordinance and why it can take so long, and just to trust the process. Yeah. But I think you've also been able to share that the council member's role is to be transparent, to be honest, and to be communicative, so people feel like they're still being brought into the process and a part of it. We had a little bit of debate about what's the best ward. I'll give you Central Ward since you're the Central Ward council person.
Thank you.
And a lot of things do happen here. I'll give you that. But I think it's been an amazing conversation. I've learned a lot as a citizen in Newark. Are there any last things you want to share with your constituents in the Central Ward or broader Newark? Anything else you want to break down before we close this episode?
Yeah, because the thing is that, yes, I'm Councilwoman Amina Bey. I'm Councilwoman for the Central Ward, but I'm still Amina. So I'm still Amina that you're going to see at Whole Foods or ShopRite. I'm still Amina that you're going to see at a Halsey Street Festival or Afro Beats or the Lincoln Park Music Festival. I love my house music and my classic hip hop just like everyone else. But just know and understand that your representative is a real person and that we have a job to be approachable and to make sure that the residents know that we are approachable and that whatever information that we have a responsibility to impart, that we have a responsibility to bring it to them, that the residents shouldn't have to work hard to receive resources and information, whether it's about food security, housing security, employment, whatever it is. If there's something happening at the end of your block, you should know it first, and we have a responsibility to make that happen. So I want the residents of the Central Ward to know that you have a responsibility to hold me accountable and to make sure, because I'm responsible to and for you.
Thank you for the breakdown with Councilwoman Amina Bey. This is her very first episode, but she will be back with more, and she'll have other guest appearances in addition to breaking down some of those issues she just talked about: food security, housing, childcare, all those things you can learn more about right here on The Breakdown with Councilwoman Amina Bey.
Yes, thank you, Tish. I appreciate you. So, Central Ward, we just want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Mic Check Newark. As always, we're here for you, and we want to make sure that you can contact us. So if you want to engage our office and attend one of our Before the Gavel sessions and have one-on-one meetings, or if you want to sign up for the Central Ward Download newspaper so you can get the information firsthand, please contact our office. You can call at 973-733-5870. That's 973-733-5870. We have additional information up on the screen. You can engage us on social media, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.